Okay, so before we go any further with anything else, I just want to talk a little bit about course policy here, right? So there are a couple of things that I just want everybody thinking about as we proceed, right? So everybody's filled out the student info sheet, right? So just make sure that you leave those with me as you leave the room, right? I am also requesting that everybody wear a mask, and I do have extras up here for people who don't have one. I can't require you to wear one. I'm not allowed to require you to wear one. But let me please explain why I would like for people to wear them. First, the ventilation in this building is lousy, right? This is an old building. It's built in the 1960s. And in some of the newer buildings, like the nursing and the psych buildings, the air gets replaced in the room, about maybe like every 5 minutes, right? In this classroom, it's more like every 10 minutes. So when there are respiratory droplets going out, you're swimming in it a little longer. The other issue here is that the mask isn't really about keeping you safe. It's about keeping other people safe, right? And none of us know what anyone else in the room's circumstances are, right? Some people might be going home and taking care of small children who can't be vaccinated yet. They might have an immunocompromised parent or grandparent at home. And what you're doing by wearing the mask is showing that you're showing that you don't want anything to happen to those other people, right? You're showing kind of like regard for the wider community. So again, I can't make you wear it, and I'm not going to penalize anybody who chooses not to, right? But I would politely request that you at least consider doing so, right? It's not a sign of weakness to wear a mask. It's not a sign that you think that you're weak or that you're going to get sick, right? It's a sign of care for other people. Now, the other thing that I do want to say, this is my hard and fast rule in class. This is a rule that I'm allowed to make and that I enforce. I don't allow any personal electronics in this class, right? And some of you are nodding, some of you already expected this, right? You may have already known that you landed in the class with the no electronics guy. This is not because I am a mean and sour old person who just wants to destroy everything that you love and that I want you to sit here bored for 20 minutes or however long you're here before class, right? I do think boredom actually gets a bad rap for reasons I'll explain in a minute, but the bigger reason I want you to do this actually has solid neuroscience behind it. So when your phone is out on your desk, when it's anywhere where you can see it, it's a drag on your attention, even if you're not actively doing anything with it. You're still going to look at it every now and again, and you're going to think about all the things outside this classroom that phone connects you to, right? Most of the things we're going to be doing in this class require slow, sustained attention to specific detail, right? And if that phone is on your desk as a drag on your attention, you're probably not going to do as well. In fact, I have found that since I started banning tech in my classroom, my pass rates are higher, and overall grades also tend to be higher, right? So the reason I keep doing this semester to semester is because, frankly, students do better in the class if I do it. So does anybody have any questions about any of this before we proceed or move on? Which I guess means more or less the same thing. Okay, did everybody get the syllabus that I sent out? I did email it to everybody a couple of weeks ago. Everybody got the copy? Okay, so we'll go over it in a little while, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance at least to look at it. One other thing, if you didn't get it because you haven't been checking your campus email yet, one thing to keep in mind is that the only way your instructors are legally allowed to contact you is through your campus email. So you do need to be checking it. That is if there are updates about the class, if there are updates about things in the university, right, that's how we're going to get in touch with you. So that's kind of what you need to be aware of, right? Yes?
How many emails did you send out before class? Because I just got mine fixed yesterday.
I think just the one.
Okay.
Yeah. And it would have been probably about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah, I got mine fixed yesterday because it was messed up most of the summer.
Okay. And it was just the syllabus which you've got in front of you now, and a couple of course policies. I do also have the syllabus posted online. So most of the assignments you're going to turn in via GeorgiaView. Has everybody used GeorgiaView before? Is there anybody who hasn't? Okay, so for those who haven't, let me just kind of briefly explain what's going on here and how things are going to work, right? Just so that everybody is on the same page. Who here is a first semester freshman? Okay, that's at least a few of you. All right. So when you log in to the course page, this is what it's going to look like. And we can see here syllabus and assignments. If you click on that, right, all of the documents for the course are here, right? So the syllabus is going to be there in case you lose your paper copy, and all of the instructions for the assignments are here as well, right? Except those assignments that are in the textbook, right? For those, you'll follow the instructions in the book plus any extra that I might give you in class. You will also see here in the content browser, right? So the lecture videos that I post will be in this folder, and I have about 2 hours of time in my office after this class, so they will generally post the same day, right? So I will go right to my office and post the video, and it'll be up probably within an hour of class ending. The other thing that I've got here for you is for each of the readings that we're doing, I've got a couple of resources, podcasts, videos, informational websites that can give you some context for what you're reading, right? So the first thing we're going to be reading in the Reading the World book in a couple of weeks is an excerpt from the Analects of Confucius, right? So one of the classics of Chinese philosophy. Now, this, because I know this might sound a little bit daunting, right? One thing I've done here is posted a link to a PBS documentary about Confucius's life and thought, so you know a little bit about where all this is coming from. And also a video of a Confucian religious ritual, so you can see what some of these ideas look like when put into practice, right? And for each thing that we're reading, there will be 2 or 3 resources like this that you can check on to try and give yourself a little bit of context, right? The other thing to note that's on GeorgiaView here that's important for you. So when you're turning in an assignment, right, for those of you who have never used this platform before, you click on the Assessments tab at the top, and then you click on Assignments. Now, because I am the instructor, every assignment is listed here, right? Yours isn't actually going to look like this. For you, only the assignments that you can turn in right now are going to be listed with a blue link that you can click on to upload the assignment, right? And those are only going to be there during the dates when the assignment is available. So make sure that you are turning things in more or less on the due date, right? We can talk about extensions and things like that in a moment. But yeah, that is more or less how all of this is going to work. Does anybody have any questions about GeorgiaView or about the course platform, anything like that?
Mine's not about GeorgiaView, it's about the Reading the World book. Is that the same one we used in Comp 1?
Who did you
Argo.
have? If you had Miss Argo for Comp 1, then yes, it probably is the same book.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure it's the same edition.
Does it look like this? Okay, yes. Then, yeah, it's almost undoubtedly. I know that she uses this too. So yeah, if any of you had Miss Argo, you would have already used this textbook.
Because I didn't know there was a couple of editions. I wasn't sure if it was the same one.
I think you're good. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. So what I'd like to do now is take about 10 minutes And I want all of you to sit and think about and kind of write out in a little short essay what you think your strengths are as a writer, right? What are you good at? What do you do well when you write? And you can think about things that instructors or other students have praised you for, right? You can think about things that you feel really confident that you're good at. Give me in a short paragraph what you think your biggest strengths are. Whatever you think of your overall strength as a writer, right? There's got to be something you think you do well, right? So just bear that in mind. take another minute or two, and then I'm going to ask people to share what they've written, okay? No fear, no terror, everybody's going to do it. Okay, so who is willing to start? Yeah.
So do you want me to read this or do you want me to just sum it up?
Yeah, if you just read what you wrote.
Okay. So I put that this past year I came to realize that I was a strong paper writer, whether it be about a book, play, article, history. And as time progressed, I've reached like a higher level in writing with like the grammar, the words, the introductions, and like the closings.
Okay.
And I may be poor at spelling and punctuation, but when it comes to the writing part with the words in.
Okay. So you feel you have pretty good control over like the formal elements of an academic paper. Okay, good. That's solid. That's important. Who else? Anybody? Everybody's going to have to do it, and it's way easier if I don't have to pick people. James.
I said I think that my biggest strength as a writer is my interest in writing.
Okay.
Both of my parents are English teachers, and I think they passed on an interest to me. And I think another one of my strengths is my syntax and
Excellent. Yeah, and interest and curiosity are important elements in any discipline, right? It's hard to get very far with anything if you just don't care. And the more you're able to interest yourself in whatever it is you're writing about, whatever you're analyzing, right, the easier it's going to be, the better your work is going to be, right? Good. Who else? Yeah, Chris.
I'm just going to sum mine up because I've read a lot. But some of my strengths are that I'm really good with coming up with a great topic and then staying on point with it, like having a lot of details to help support that topic.
Okay.
And argumentative essays I'm good at because I'm, for whatever reason, really good at arguing, but only when I need to.
Okay.
And so that's always coming easy to me.
Yeah, so two important things there. One, knowing what you want to write about, right? And two, knowing what to leave out, right? Avoiding digression. Good. All right, what else you got? Don't make me play dentist and start pulling teeth. Yeah, there it is.
I basically put what he put, like, I try not to deviate from the topic too much. And I can write a thesis pretty well.
Okay, great. Yeah, and knowing how to write a thesis is half the battle, right? Knowing how to write just that first statement of your argument, yeah, that's huge. Sydney.
I kind of said what he said too, like I'm really good at staying on topic and staying on the point, and then I said probably my biggest strength is the argumentative essays and persuasive essays.
Okay.
I feel like I'm able to get my point across really well and be able to help people see things from like my perspective.
Okay, excellent. Was it a tentative hand up in the back, Leon? All right.
Alright, so it's kind of a bit of a weird back to like computer. like argumentative essays.
Uh-huh.
And my biggest strength is like the intro and the thesis.
Okay. And you know, the hardest part of writing a paper is knowing how to start, right? There's nothing more intimidating than that blank screen or that blank sheet of paper in front of you, right? And you're like, fuck, I don't know what to do with this, right? And yeah, knowing how to write a solid introduction. And you know, we'll talk about strategies for overcoming that kind of like terror of the blank page as we go through the term. But yeah, knowing where to start is always huge. Is a really good strength. Okay, who's next? Yes.
I feel like my strength is making my own template, knowing my format, topic, and structure, and then filling in once I have my material. Whether it be a narrative, informational, or persuasive essay, just knowing how to format it before getting the material.
It's Brandon, right?
Yes.
So are you an outliner?
Yeah.
Like you come up with an outline and like a framework before you. Yeah, and that's a really good habit to get into. It's something that I kind of wish I was better at. But yeah, you will. Yeah, if you are able to kind of draw out that skeleton of the paper before you get started, it's way easier than to just kind of fill in the bones, right? Yeah, Ronald.
I said that I think my biggest strengths are having grammar and sophistication. when I'm
Okay.
writing, and then whenever I can plan it out and,
Uh-huh.
create the format, I do the best.
Yeah, and you know, style matters, right? Style helps keep your reader engaged. So if you can get style, structure, and content together, right, then you're golden. So who are we still missing yet? I think they're like kind of, so those of you on the edge of the room, yes. Asia.
I'm not really good at writing. I don't like writing on paper.
But there must be something you think you're good at. Okay, so anything you think you do well when you're writing.
Persuading people to do something.
Okay. Yeah, persuasion is really like being able to persuade, right? That's huge. Like everything you're going to be writing in this class is going to be in some level persuasive, right? It's going to be designed to get someone else to adopt a particular point of view. And if you feel that's something that you can do, right, then you're already halfway there. All right. Who else hasn't spoken up yet? Yeah, Johan.
I said I'm not sure what my strengths are, but I kind of know what my topic is. Like,
Okay.
It's easier for me to find a topic to write it off.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure about anything else.
Okay. So yeah, again, like knowing what to write about, right? Being able to find that question you want to answer. That is actually a really big strength. And I think it's just the two of you we haven't heard from. Yes, Lay.
I say my biggest strengths are hitting the main points and staying on topic. And
Okay.
I like writing argumentative and informational essays, because that's what I'm interested in like getting protocols.
Okay. Yeah, argumentative we'll definitely be doing in this class. Informational, not so much. A lot of what we're going to be doing is taking something someone else has written and picking apart and making an argument about it, right? That's going to be and yeah, if you're already good at constructing an argument, then that'll be easier for you. And I think you, youngest in your class, are the last holdout, right?
I don't really think I don't write a lot because it can give me pressure. But I mean, whenever I have to write, I know that I can do the intro and I kind of do thesis.
Okay.
But that's not.
So why do you guys think, like, so I noticed that some of you, even though I asked you to focus on strengths, still quite couldn't get past what you think you're not good at, right? Why do you think I asked you to tell me what you're good at rather than what you're not good at? Yeah, Haley.
Maybe so we could see that although we might not think that we're good writers, we still have those strong things that we might be able to find people who are the opposite strengths that could help.
Yeah, and yeah, on the one, hearing from everybody else in the room, right? This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. Yeah, and here are 13 other people around your own age, right? Who are in the same boat, and yeah, you might all be able to help each other out, right? But also, if we're thinking in terms of our deficits from the beginning, right? If we're only thinking of it in terms of what we're bad at or what we think we're lousy at, then what's the attitude we develop towards what we're doing? Yeah, you're just kind of telling you kind of end up telling yourself you can't, right? So I know a couple of you guys play sports, right? Ronald, you said you played the saxophone, right? So did you just pick that thing up and you were immediately Coltrane? Yeah, what did it sound like when you first started playing?
It's horrible.
Yeah, I would imagine that saxophone, when you're first learning, probably those mistakes are probably painful, right?
Last weekend.
Yeah. Yoan, were you immediately good at soccer? But you still had room for improvement, right? You have to learn the rules of the game, right? You have to learn better technique, and as you do so, your game improves, right? So like with anything else, right, being good at writing is about commitment and practice and getting good feedback, right? You need someone telling you what you're doing right and also what you're doing wrong, right? So you can correct it. But when we get into the kind of mindset where we think we can't do something, then we keep getting in our own way, right? So I was, throughout high school, a C&D student in math, right? I was firmly convinced that I was just not a math person. I was incapable of understanding mathematics, and I was just never going to get it, so why bother? Now, this is not true, right? There's no such thing as someone who is or is not a math person. I just didn't like math. I didn't find it very interesting, and so I didn't try very hard, right? I put in the bare minimum amount of effort in order to just get through the class so I didn't have to do this anymore. And then when I got to college, I found out I could take a philosophy class, formal logic, instead of having to take calculus. I was, ooh, hot damn. And yeah, formal logic was way harder. I should have taken calculus. But the point I'm trying to make here, right, is that nobody's good, like hardly anyone is good at something right away, right? Think of your brain as being, like, this isn't a perfect analogy. Your brain isn't a muscle, but in some ways it does work like a muscle, right? And that the more you exercise various parts of it, the stronger it's going to get. And so we're going to be doing a lot of writing in this class, and you're going to be getting a lot of feedback. And the goal is to give you that practice that's going to help sustain you through other classes, in which you're also going to have to do a lot of writing and analysis and research, right? The more you practice, the better you're going to get. And this can even overcome like certain natural deficits that we might feel we have, right? So I used to play drums and a little bit of guitar, right? Yes, the long-haired beardy dude in front of your class and the Bob Ross t-shirt used to be a musician. Yeah, woo, big fucking surprise, right? I was pretty good at the drum. Like I picked up the drums pretty easily, right? Not a lot of problems there. Like I had a decent sense of rhythm. I had a good ear. I could follow what other people were doing. Guitar was a lot harder for me because I have small hands and stumpy fingers. Right? So, forming the chords was difficult. Certain sequences and notes were really hard to play because I couldn't stretch far enough.
Bar chords suck.
Yeah, bar chords, if you got little hands, hurt.
I don't have the strength that I need to play them, so I play around.
Yeah. But yeah, that's right. You figure out ways to do it, right? The more you practice, you figure out the workarounds, right? And you can get, if not great, you can at least get to be passable. right? And, passable is, a word I choose very, very intentionally here, right? Because while I would love to see all of you excel, right? We also have to remember that C's get degrees, right? So, if you're passing the class, that's not such a bad thing, right? You're doing all right. That's exactly what a C means, right? A C means you're doing okay. And I should note as well, like in general, as long as you're showing up and doing all the work in this class, right, you'll get at least a 70. Right? The key is just to make sure that you are turning everything in. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about anything so far? Okay, so to give you an example of the kinds of work we're going to be doing in this class, just kind of in miniature. I'm going to put a pair of sentences on the board. They are to be read together in sequence, and I want you to try to make sense of them for me, right? Explain to me what you think they mean. The last man on earth sat in a room. There was a knock on the door. Just take a minute, think about this. Yeah, Chris.
I think it means the last man on earth sat in a room because he didn't want to be harmed in whatever way. He was the last man, and then because he thought he was the last one, and then all of a sudden hears a knock on the door, and he's going to think that there's somebody else.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So generally, what sorts of things knock on doors? People, right? So this is something that we tend to regard as a human behavior, right? Why do you knock on a door?
To make someone aware that you're there to let in.
Yeah, because you want the person on the other side of the door to know that you're there, right? It's about making the other person aware. And it's part of like a kind of human code of politeness, right? You don't just walk into a room uninvited. If you think someone might be in there, right, particularly if it's like, say, the bathroom or something, right, you certainly don't want to walk in when somebody else is there. You knock to see if it's occupied, right? And if it's occupied, you expect a response, right? So whatever's knocking on the door, so far we seem to be thinking that this is something that expects some kind of response from the last man on earth, right? So what's weird about this?
So who would be knocking at the door?
He's supposed to be the last man on earth, right? So who or what is knocking on the door? Now, we can try to come to some sort of answer here by interrogating some of these terms a little bit further, right? So we've already kind of interrogated the idea of knock, right? You know, what we think of when we think about knocking. What about the word man? How do we break down the word man? What might be ambiguous here about the meaning of man?
It can be used as either a term for just males or for both.
Yeah. In fact, particularly, like we don't use it as much as a general term anymore. We tend to use terms more like human to describe the whole human race now, right? But particularly if this is something that was written, say, maybe 60, 70 years ago or earlier, then yeah, man was in common use as a kind of generalized term for human being, right? So are we talking about just any human being, the last human being on earth, or the last male human being on earth, right? And the way we interpret that word affects the way we read what comes after, right? Because if it's just the last male human on earth, just the last man on earth, who could be knocking on the door?
A woman.
Could be a woman, yeah. And if it's the last human being on earth, what's that?
I said, would there necessarily be an after door if it was the last human on Earth?
Well, and there's the mystery there, right? What other kind of thing, right, would know to knock? Now, somebody in yesterday's class suggests, like, well, there are certain kinds of animals
Don't say bird.
that woodpeckers knock just looking for food, right? So the fact that it's a knock doesn't necessarily mean that it's intentional. But we're conditioned by language and culture to think that you hear a knock on the door in a context like this, right? And that it is intentional. The basic point that I'm trying to make here, right, is do these two sentences give us enough context to resolve the meaning sufficiently? Yeah, that's enough to give us a little surprise, right? To sit up and say, like, wait, what the hell, right? He's supposed to be the last man on earth. But they don't give us nearly enough to figure out what the real sequence of events here, right? What's on the other side of the door. So meaning, in language, as in anything else, is context dependent. Right? We typically need context clues to help us determine what a word or a phrase means, especially when it might otherwise be ambiguous, like man in this case. I'll give you another example of something like this. Have any of you, I know that there were the great big epic CGI-filled movies a couple of years ago, but have any of you actually read The Hobbit? Okay, James, you've read it, right? So there's that scene at the beginning, right, the very beginning, where Bilbo Baggins is outside his hobbit hole smoking his pipe and reading his mail, right? And Gandalf the wizard comes along, and Bilbo says, "Good morning," and he meant it. And then the wizard begins questioning him as to what he means, right? Well, do you mean that it is a good morning, or that you feel good this morning, or that it is a morning to be good on, or, so on and so what, right? And the hobbit simply responds to him, all of them, right? He's given the wizard here no clue as to what he means by good morning, which the wizard has pointed out is an inherently ambiguous phrase, right? That he needs some sort of clue to figure out what he means by this. And then, when Bilbo decides he doesn't like the wizard, he doesn't want to keep talking to him, he says good morning again, turns his back and starts pointedly reading his mail, right? Giving a clear context clue as to what he now means. So the point is, right, that we have to look at all the circumstances surrounding language in order to get a clear sense of its meaning. Now, read this and tell me what you think it means, or what it evokes for you. Yeah.
Usually with that, I would think that it would be you leaving an imprint on the child, like that child is going to remember you and what you've given to them.
Okay.
Good or bad.
Okay. And I think, you are probably getting close to the intended meaning here, right? But what's weird or awkward about this?
The joke
It says
is joke.
footprint.
Yeah. It's not just leaving an imprint, it's leaving a footprint on a child's heart, right? So what does that sound like, especially combined with the jumps for joy?
Jumped on.
Yeah, it sounds like you're stomping on a kid's heart, right? Now, to give this some context, right, this was written on a flyer that my wife's cousin was passing out when she was 14. She was doing a jump rope-a-thon to raise money to build a well in a village in Africa, right? So she meant well, but her command of language was not very strong, right? So she ends up giving her flyer a host of possible unintended meanings, right? She does not mean for you to think that she is stomping on a kid's heart, right? She's trying to associate the jumping rope with trying to raise money for a cause, right? That will help children. There's another personal favorite. Think about that for a minute. What does that sound like?
Trying to eat your
I was
kids.
gonna say eating your kids.
Exactly, yeah. When making snacks include your kids, right? Again, context goes a long way towards explaining this, right? So this was a headline from like a newspaper lifestyle section, right? And the article was about, getting you to get your kids to help you in the kitchen, right? But without that context to explain it, you end up with something that sounds like they're encouraging you to eat your kids. Yeah. Which no American newspaper probably wants to do, right? They're going to get letters. So, a lot of what we are going to be doing in this course is applying context to help us kind of decide questionable meanings, right? And this is actually probably the most useful skill you will develop in an English course, apart from writing and communication and research skills, right? Those are all helpful, and those will all be useful to you in whatever future career you want to pursue. But the big issue that a lot of you are going to encounter in your future jobs is that most of the problems you're going to have to solve will not have a clear right or wrong answer. You're going to have to look at the situation and try to figure out what the best answer you can come up with what you have is. And that is the thing that you learn to do, particularly in an English composition course and in future literature courses as well, right? You're looking at material that can be inherently ambiguous, and you're trying to figure out the best way to interpret it, right? So it's all about resolving ambiguity. So what the English poet John Keats called negative capability. And keep this phrase in your back pocket for now because we're going to come back to it. So in terms of the course material, that's really all I wanted to go over today. I do want to quickly go over the syllabus with you guys as well, just to make sure that nobody has any questions about anything, that everybody understands what's going on. Okay, so important points as regards the syllabus here. Right, so we know who we are, we know where we are, and we think we know what we're doing. For some reason, I printed out a syllabus with the wrong office hours, so correct this, right? Where it says office hours, it should say Monday, Wednesday, 11 to 12, Tuesday, Thursday, 10 to 12, and then 2 to 4. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in the office 2 hours before this class and 2 hours after this class. I'm not in the office much on Mondays and Wednesdays. I have 3 classes more or less back to back. So it's a little trickier for me to meet on those days. And office hours are for you to come and ask me questions, right? That's the purpose. They're not there for me to sit in my office doing my own research or twiddling my thumbs or playing video games or whatever, right? They are set aside for students, right, for me to help you with assignments, to answer any questions you have about the course, or yeah, it's time that's set aside for you, right, outside of class. Now, if you are unable to meet with me inside my regularly scheduled office hours, these are the hours I have to be in the office. They're not the only hours I can be in the office. So if you need to talk to me about something and you can't meet with me at these times, we can set up a virtual conference. That's relatively easy. Or, we can just kind of arrange another time to meet face-to-face, right? The best way to get in touch with me, if you need to talk to me about something, is my regular campus email, right? michael.moir@gsw.edu. I know there is an email widget in Georgia View. That does not connect to my campus email. I don't check the Georgia View email, so do not try to email me in Georgia View, right? It will just go into a black hole and I will never see it. In general, I will get back to you within 24 hours. On the weekend, I might be a little bit slower. Yes?
When you put out announcement emails and that stuff, instead of putting the announcements on Georgia View, do you do it through our radar or do those come through Georgia View?
Those will mostly come through your radar email. In part because I'm just more comfortable. I know how to use that better than I know how to use Georgia View, frankly.
Georgia View just gets on my nerves. That's why I was asking, making sure I wasn't supposed to be looking specifically.
Yeah, Georgia View gets on my nerves too. There are 2 textbooks for this course, right? So there's the Reading the World, which we've already noted. At least one of you already has this. We're not going to be using this for maybe another 2 weeks, right? So get it, but if you don't have it right now, it's not a disaster. The other textbook, the main rhetoric text we're going to be using, is Writing Analytically by David Rosenwasser and Jill Stephen. There are copies available in the bookstore. If for whatever reason you cannot get a copy by say Sunday, so that you can complete the assignment for next time, which is just reading the first chapter, then let me know at the end of class, and I will email you a PDF of the first chapter, right? So that you can stay caught up. But everybody will have to get both of the textbooks.
Do you know how much that one costs to go through?
I do not. I know that it's cheaper to rent it. That's about what I know. I know they have.
That one was, I think, $75 when I got mine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I know it's not inexpensive, but it's I've found it to be about the most useful rhetoric for this level of course. Right. Okay, so just a couple of quick things about assignments and grades. So I've got everything laid out here in the syllabus in terms of how you're going to be graded, right? So there are going to be 2 major papers. I'm sorry, did you have a question, Asia? Or you were just stretching? Okay. There are going to be 2 major papers. The first is going to be a close reading of a single text from the first half of the semester. It's going to be 1,000 to 1,500 words, so roughly 4 to 6 pages, double-spaced, right? You're going to do that in 2 stages. You're going to write a draft, which will have to be 750 words, and then you will write the full paper. Then we're also going to do a research paper on one of the course texts at the end of the course. That's going to be done in 3 stages. There'll be a draft in the final paper, but the first thing you're going to do is going to be an annotated bibliography, right? So you're going to go out and get your sources and describe those sources to me first before you start deciding what kind of argument you want to try to make, right? So the idea there is going to be to try to make an argument from research. Let's see. You're also going to be doing reflection papers. There'll be 8 of those total. They'll be worth 5 points each. They're each going to be 500 words. We'll talk a little bit in more detail about them when we get closer to that point in the semester. And the last thing that you're going to have to do, the last thing you're going to be graded on, you see vocabulary assignments listed here. So one thing I have noticed over the last couple of years is that language is becoming a bigger hang-up in the readings that I'm assigning to people. And what should you do when you are reading something and you run across a word that you don't know?
Look at it.
Yeah. Guys, everybody carries a computer around in their pockets these days, right? Fucking look it up. The whole idea here, the idea behind the vocabulary assignments, right, is that for each reading that we do in Reading the World, I'm going to ask you to give me at least 3 words that you had to look up and their definitions. And you will get credit for that, right? So the idea here is to reward you for looking up those words and improving your vocabulary. All right, so does anybody have any questions about this?
None of,
Yes.
Are any of those papers can be done like in the class or one of those 8 research, or the 8 papers you're talking about?
Not the. We're not going to do those in. We're not going to do those in class. Those will all be outside of class. There won't be any graded writing in class, right? We're going to be doing a lot of reflective writing, like stuff for sharing, but that's all going to be low stakes, ungraded, right? Everything that's graded is going to be homework. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so it's 1:30. There's really nothing more that we need to cover today. So I'm going to let you all go a little bit early. So for Tuesday, remember to read the first chapter of Writing Analytically. And like I said, if you do not think you will have the book by Sunday, let me know, and I will get you the PDF, right?
To let you know, can we just email you?
Yeah, you can just shoot me an email. Yes. Yes, and please make sure that you give me that info sheet back as you leave.